Hi, I'm Gary Rowett, and you're listening to the world famous Achtung Millwall.
Good morning, dear listeners. I say good morning because Neil and I are both watching England play Pakistan in the Test match cricket at the moment. Welcome to Neil Fissler. How are you, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Yeah, it's a shame we had to interrupt watching the cricket to record a podcast.
we give to our public. We're giving to our public. It's a busy sporting weekend, Neil. As I say, we've mentioned the cricket already with this new Pakistan sensation. Abrar has taken 7 wickets in, I think this is in Multan, they said, in Pakistan. But England have struck back early with another wicket in return. Are you a fan, Neil, of this so-called Baz Ball approach? I mean, you're a cricket man through and through. Do you approve of that approach in Test match cricket?
Yes, I do. But it makes it quite interesting, doesn't it? Rather than try and block for 2 days, we go out there and we try and hit the first ball for 6. And but that's pretty much part of his approach. I was listening to Stuart Broad in one of the intervals, and he said that McCullum's approach is that he said to him, just go out and hit the first ball for 6. And if you get out second ball, so what? Yeah. And it's kind of a refreshing approach, isn't it? I can't imagine down at Essex being too happy being told to go out and hit the first ball for 6. I do like it. But I think you've got to temper it slightly. You've got to temper this. It isn't going so well, just to bring down the shutters slightly.
There's a time and a place for it. I should probably just explain to any non-cricket fans. I sometimes forget that our show is listened to by many, many people around the world. So we're talking cricket here for any foreign-based listeners. And Baz Ball, as it's become known, is named after Brendan McCullum, the England manager, coach, whatever position he holds. He's the main man. And I'd describe it as a more attacking approach, generally speaking, Neil. In it, it's more like the approach you might get in the short form T20 style, applied to a traditionally fairly staid and conservative format of the game in Test match cricket. So it's attacking where once it would have been fairly defensively minded.
Yeah, and it's very much towards getting the result, isn't it?
Rather than drawing, yeah.
Well, Stokes is quite a good captain to have for it because he isn't going to hang around, is he?
He's an attack-minded player. I mean, it's geared around that idea that you try and win the game, you win it decisively, and you crucially, which always makes me laugh slightly because it's part of the reason that I think we as a nation love cricket, is it's always been it can be a dull sport sometimes to watch for the non-fan, and this really tries to reach probably a new audience in some ways because it's entertaining in a way that maybe you wouldn't have once have thought of the sport. So I agree. I mean, it doesn't always work. I watched dear old Jack Leach try and do a reverse sweep when I just put the TV on this morning, and he was out first ball. So that's the price you're going to pay for taking an attacking stance in the game of cricket. But anyway, more power to Stokes and to McCullum, because I think it'll bring the excitement and the buzz back to the sport, Neil.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but the real purists might not like it, but it's quite entertaining. You've got to be honest. When you have the openers go out and they're trying to coat the first 2 or 3 balls over the boundary, it's almost shit or bust, isn't it? That kind of scenario.
Absolutely. Big sports weekend, Neil. As I said, we've got the World Cup obviously tomorrow night, England versus France in the World Cup quarterfinals, as well as the return of a full slate of championship fixtures after the break for our level. Certainly, the game kind of largely returns back to life tomorrow. Millwall entertaining Wigan Athletic at home. Traditional bogey opponents, Wigan. I've never enjoyed watching Wigan, Neil. There's some teams I've never enjoyed watching Millwall play. Wigan are one of them. Wimbledon, I've never enjoyed watching Wimbledon either. You knew you were always in for a grind of a game, and I've always found Wigan to have a similar kind of, I don't know, you grit your teeth slightly when you go and watch Millwall play Wigan, don't you?
Yeah, it's dour, isn't it? It's one of those. Yeah, but let's be honest, it's a northern shithole, isn't it?
Yeah, another one. Under new management, they're a strange club in some ways because they're relative newcomers to the Football League. I think it was in the late 70s they were voted in from
77.
non-league football. 77, there we are.
Yep.
But they've always had a kind of certainly in recent times, you know, they had Roberto Martinez. They've had a kind of a foreign management vibe going. They've always tried to be slightly out there a little bit in their manager. I mean, they've got Kolo Toure, the ex-Arsenal and Manchester City manager, has been appointed just a few days ago, I think.
No, to be honest, they're a basket case for club, aren't they? They're one of those clubs that I don't actually agree with what they did last year. They went into administration and cleared a lot of debt, and that enabled them to start again, get promoted. And I think I was hearing something the other week that the new lot have been late paying the wages. It's got lucky on Dave Whelan's money, didn't they? They're able to win the Premier League.
JJB Sports was his thing, wasn't it? I don't know if that still exists, JJB, but that was where his money was based.
Aren't they? Didn't Mike Ashley buy them? But yeah, no, it's well, I've never really forgiven them for beating us in the playoffs.
or the what do they call it? The full members of the auto windscreen shield. That was another Wigan special, wasn't it? Late goal there. Their first appearance at Wembley since the war.
They had nobody there, and
I know.
Afternoon. They're a bogey club, aren't they? I've been up there and seen us win, admittedly, on a Tuesday, Wednesday night when we needed it. It's just dour place, isn't it? And then they go and bring in Kolo Toure. Yeah.
We're sitting in 7th after that very disappointing performance up at Sunderland last week. And I don't know if you had a chance to see it, but it was a very insipid second half by Millwall after actually not a bad first half, in fairness, but I thought we just looked like we didn't care about it in the second half. It was a very strange performance I found last week.
Yeah, no, I fell asleep at half-time, believe it or
not. What, literally? You actually literally did fall asleep?
Yeah, no, I fell asleep at half-time. It was a strange one. You just couldn't see us getting anything in that first half. We just looked like Millwall, really, didn't we? They weren't.
It was very anticlimactic. Very anticlimactic because there'd been a bit of a build-up. We'd come off of a really good performance up at Preston just before the enforced break, and I know that no one wanted this win to break the World Cup being played when it's being played, but it just I appreciate that a few weeks off takes away some of the edge and the buzz, perhaps, but 880 people made the journey up there, Neil. Millwall fans made the long away trip to Sunderland, and they were dished up a fairly poor second half dish, I felt. And I don't know, sometimes I think the game takes its fans for granted a little bit, because you can get beat, and you certainly get beat at Sunderland. There's always been a tough place to go for us, but we just looked like we didn't really give a shit. And I thought that was the most unforgivable part of that second half performance, which I found odd.
Yeah, we might not have the best players in the world, but traditionally we always want our players to give everything, don't we? You can put up illusions. It's the manner of the defeat. But I think it showed up all of our frailties that we desperately need a goal scorer.
Agree.
We need to revamp that attack, because the way it is, we ain't going to do anything, are we? But let's be honest. He stumbled upon this system that works quite well, but again, he hasn't got the players for the formation, so he's having to play everybody out of position. Rely heavily on Zion Fleming, which is something we've got to stop. Fantastic player, but it's almost that Jed Wallace scenario, isn't it, where we rely so heavily on one player to carry us, and if that player gets marked out the game or doesn't have a good game, it's almost curtains, isn't it?
Well, Zian will be attracting attention now. He's clearly a standout player for us, and opposition sides will now be looking for him. And just as they've identified Jake Cooper at set pieces, and they almost rugby tackle him now, which seems to go unpunished. It went unpunished up at the Stadium of Light last week, Neil. But they're also going to identify Zian as a player to pick out. We don't have many other options after Zian in terms of creativity. I think you're right. That's going to be where we'll either succeed or fail in the January transfer window. Remains to be seen what kind of business we do there. Few injuries. Ryan Leonard and Benik Afobe are pretty much permanent fixtures on the medical bench at the moment, aren't they? Sad, but also Tyler Bury's been down with his mystery illness. Whether he'll be fit for tomorrow, I don't know. And Stylesy, I love this nickname thing that Gary Rowett does. I kind of love it and hate it all at once. And Stylesy apparently is a doubt for tomorrow's home game at the Den. So
it's quite cringy when they start using, because then fans start using it. I watch a cricket YouTube channel refer to Joe Root as Rooty, because that's what the players call him. So
it's a false matiness. Gary Rowett's, he seems to his interviews with the press, he doesn't refer to them by name. It would do my head in if I worked with him, Neil. If I kept calling you Fizzy, I don't know. It would get on my wick if I was, if it was me at work and my boss was called me Hearty all the time. I don't know. It's just juvenile. But anyway, there we are.
Yeah, Callum Styles is one that frustrates me. Frustrates the hell out of me. He's obviously got great ability, and how much of it have we actually seen? He's had 2 or 3 very good games, but can you really put your hand on your heart and say he's really improved the side?
No, not yet. I mean, I think it comes back to something of what you've touched on, which is where we're using players in places where they're not maybe naturally best positioned. I mean, I keep going to say Vogelsong. There's a baseball player. Vogelsammer is, being used as a kind of a wide man when he's probably more of a striker, overt striker, and even Stylesy. He seems to be played wherever there's a need, rather than I believe he's a midfielder by trade, or I think he can probably slot in anywhere. Maybe that's his downfall and his strength all in one, because he'll go anywhere that he's put. But
he was signed as a left wing back, wasn't he? And since we changed the formation, isn't required for that position. Can play centre mid, I guess. It's just, you don't want this season to be one where you look back on and you think only if, because there's no 2 ways about it. We are in a fantastic position. We are in a position to challenge for the Premier League.
Yeah, we are.
And we've largely got the players to challenge for the Premier League.
Yeah.
But you've just got that, I don't know, I've just got that nagging doubt at the back of my mind. It's going to be one of those where we're going to be looked back and saying in 10, 15 years' time, only if. It's a bit like when we lost to Birmingham. 1 player off, weren't we? 1 or 2 players off, having a really, really, really good side. Yeah, the injuries, it's probably our best run of injuries for quite a long time, isn't it? Ryan Leonard, I think, is permanently injured, so you can just...
And Benik seems to become a permanent injury as well, doesn't he? He's not been right.
I think since the end of October. So you would have thought that they might have operated on it in the time that we were away and messing around with injections.
And Tyler, I don't know. I mean, I still think he's a highly skilled youngster, and we had this conversation the other day, Neil, about growing up at the Den. When you're a flair player, it can be quite a tough arena in which to learn your trade. And I think Tyler's still at the point where he's not quite the finished article as a player. So, but he seems to have been out with no one's really saying what this illness is. He's just been ill, not very well for a period of time. Be interesting to see if he's on the bench even tomorrow, because that's quite a long stretch, if so.
Yeah, but to be honest, we both have had this flu thing that's going around. and it definitely took me 2 or 3 weeks to get over it, and that was being badly ill for 2 or 3 weeks, no energy, no anything.
No.
So he's got that. It just
It can drain you. I mean, on a micro level, doing these shows, sometimes, listeners, I confess, you might have noticed that sometimes the shows sound a bit stretched. It's because, if you haven't got the energy for it, it can be quite an effort, Neil. And to be a professional footballer, a totally different ball game entirely. So, if you do have anything like the bug or whatever you want to call it that does the rounds, and it would take it out of you. That's for sure.
Achtung, Millwall.
3:00 kickoff tomorrow. No change on kickoff time, despite the proximity for the evening game, which is England versus France, which is a 7:00 kickoff. Neil, I suppose the club have got two things to think about. One is the distance that we're going to have got to travel down. It's not easy to change a 3:00 kickoff, is it? And secondly, I suppose they might be hoping that one or two stick around in Harry's bar and watch it, or in the exec, I believe, and get a few beers in to watch the England game in the evening. I don't know how many will do that. Some might. I suppose for many people to travel back home to wherever you are would be a little bit tight for a 7:00 start.
Yeah, we shouldn't really worry about Wigan, because what they're going to bring 200-300 down, if that.
A couple of coach loads.
Yeah,
that's quite
wine, whatever happens. Look, it's an unfortunate series of events that this wasn't taken into account.
Yeah.
Months ago. I did notice that for the Luton game, they brought the kickoff forward by half an hour. Yeah,
it's an 11:30 start as against the 12, but it won't make much difference to anyone, will it? But I think that's they're stuck. What I don't get this season, I mean, tomorrow we're playing a full card of championship fixtures, and yet those that run the game would have known that the knockout phase of the World Cup is on in the evening. Why did they not shuffle things over to the Sunday? But I suppose that interferes with TV schedules and the god of satellite Sky TV. Maybe that's the reason why. But you got a free Sunday, no World Cup games on Sunday.
What they could have done is they could have actually brought the kickoffs forward to 2:30.
Yeah,
1.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe not in Wigan's case, but bringing it forward half an hour.
Yeah.
Your fans are in and around the vicinity 1:30, 2:00, aren't they? So to bring it forward, and let's be honest, I think there's a train strike on, isn't there, tomorrow?
There's a train strike. It doesn't make it easy. I can see it being a low attendance, whether it be officially low or not, or because sometimes they have these official attendances where they count people that aren't there.
They count season tickets, don't they?
That's right. You're counted as an attender, whether you're there or not. But I can see it being a low in reality attendance tomorrow, just for those practical reasons. It's a big event tomorrow night.
Have we actually had a home game yet that's not been affected by rail works, rail strikes, or anything like that? I think somebody said on Hoff that we haven't had a game yet, or we might have had one game where it's actually been easy to get to the game.
It's been a while. I mean, it's hard. I sometimes miss out on this. I mean, I've been over a couple of times now on the overgrounds, the service that feeds into Surrey Quays. There's one game where that wasn't running, but the Jubilee was. So you're just walking across the car park at the Tesco's there at Surrey Quays. But mostly I'll drive it over, so I must admit I've missed it out. But I believe there's been quite a bit of rail disruption this season, which doesn't help, does it? I mean, it's different subject, but it certainly doesn't help from the Millwall perspective, because we do depend quite heavily on people coming in by train, and it won't help tomorrow's attendance by any means.
Would you hang around in Harry's bar? The game finishes at 5:00.
Well, I wouldn't, because I'll drive it over. You're not going to sit on lemonade, Coca-Cola, and variations of orange juice for an evening to watch it in Harry's. I wouldn't. I mean, some people do, and I don't knock that, and it's good for the club because there's an income being drawn from it. But I wouldn't. Would you? Would you go? Would you watch the World Cup at Harry's bar if you were there around?
No. No, I'd
No, I
rather go
wouldn't.
and
I wouldn't.
move locally or move somewhere else or go home and watch it. I'll watch it at home, to be quite honest. I'd quite happily plot up watching it with a curry or something like that, and then there's some boxing afterwards. So, yeah, well, I'm not a great watcher of football out, I must admit. I
No,
like
I'm.
to
I'm not. I'm not. But
watch the game and not have to listen to some dickhead's opinion who doesn't know what he's about. And
one thing I wouldn't do, which fascinates me about the modern tournament fan zone, these box park places. There was one in Croydon that they always show where whenever England score a goal, everyone slings beer in the air. I mean, fuck that, Neil. I mean, we've scored a goal. I mean, it's this kind of strange modern sense that everything is climactic. Every goal is like the best there's ever been. You have someone sling their fucking lager all over your head just because we've scored a goal. It would do it would cause a problem.
yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to go on at the exec or in Harry's bar or wherever, because I think we're a bit beyond all that. But I wouldn't get involved in those box park places for love nor money. I wouldn't dream of it. But they've always looked packed. So someone's going there.
£7 a pint, £8 a pint, and England scored.
Yeah. And you sling it in the air.
And, some people do like that. Yeah, some people like to go out. They like the social aspects of it. They like being ripped off because you're going to be paying a lot more for your food and drink, aren't you?
Totally. I don't get it. We're in danger of sounding like two old gits talking to each other. We got to keep with the kids here, mate. I think that is our audience. But I think we've got an audience saying, "Yes, that's right. What Neil said is right." There, yeah.
You know what people do enjoy? Good luck to them. Yeah, but it isn't my kind of thing. I'd rather watch it on my own or at home and that kind of thing. It's just
I find you don't really watch the game if you're in a kind of collective situation like a bar or whatever, something like it. You're not really watching it. You're talking to people. People want to talk to you, and often it's people that don't know anything about football, and it's just not. If I'm watching a match, I want to watch it. Especially Millwall. If I'm watching the streams, I'm always also doing these shows with yourself and others. I want to at least know what I'm. Hopefully, sound like I know what I'm talking about. You can't do two things at once in that way. But anyway, that's the box park scene. Slated and condemned, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think it'll be a good game tomorrow night. Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I think that I've actually enjoyed the World Cup. I don't know if you have.
Good points. I think it's been a good one. And I know that's not what you're meant to say, is it, in this kind of human rights driven kind of World Cup, even though we've played many World Cups in many places that have pretty suspect human rights records. I think it's been from the football perspective, it's been a good one. There's been a few games where I think I only fell asleep in one. I know Poland were involved in the game because I woke up halfway through the second half. But that was one of the few. For the most part, the football's been good, Neil.
Yeah, what put me off at the start was the virtue signalling orgy of woke that we got from.
I'm going to have woke big go on this show, and at the moment, how many minutes have passed before Neil gets the W word out?
Yeah, but it's true though. Yeah, well, it was an orgy of woke, wasn't it?
Orgy,
yeah,
that's a drink orgy. I wouldn't go to that one.
Yeah, with the other mob lecturing you, and they're over there taking Qatari money and things like that. Yeah, but let's figure out about the whys and wherefores of it being there. Yeah, we had to put up with the lecturing. Yeah, and that's what ground me down. So I started to watch it on foreign TV, and I got into it. Yeah, but they were taking the football. They weren't mentioning human rights and rainbow armbands and all of this shit that you had to put up with at the start of the tournament. It was a bit like Harry and Meghan, wasn't it? They were just bombarding you.
Did they get into it?
Weren't they? Yeah, but it's true. It's absolutely true. And but got into the football. I loved having those early morning kickoffs.
Yeah, they're brilliant. It reminded just sticking the cricket on now. We've got 2 wickets down, by the way, listeners, at the moment, as Neil and I are speaking. But there's something really great about getting up and putting the telly on, and there's good live top level sport on football. Cricket is just great, isn't it? If they could maybe organise a few more kickoffs and start times to suit your and my schedule, Neil, it'd be wonderful, wouldn't it?
H might not like you having it on TV 24/7.
Oh, he's Wade's slave. He's got to go to work.
Yeah, the football wise, you've seen some really good games.
We have some top players, top moments. Yeah.
Yeah, although you do have that nauseating Messi loving every time he touches a football, and it was just nauseating the way that they treat people, and they put people on pedestals and things like that. But
the media get a story, don't they? I mean, what I mean, you know how it works anyway. You're in the business, but there's like a story that has a version of events that has to be repeated endlessly over and over until you, as you say, you do get a bit sick of the Lionel Messi love fest. You get a bit sick of the whole Brazilian thing. I kind of want Brazil to get beat just because we don't have to watch their dance routine then, and somehow it destroys. They're a great footballing side and they've got some brilliant individuals, but it just punctures the accepted version of events that which will be according to the media, So I'm hoping that Croatia actually do get past them, but I can't see it today. That's the first one up, 3:00 this afternoon, Croatia, Brazil. And then Netherlands, Argentina tonight, Neil. Repeat of the 78 Classic World Cup final.
Yeah, which I think will actually be quite a good game, and it'll be a game that I look forward to watching, as long as we don't have the nauseating Lionel Messi loving from...
Which we will. That's its new name now, listeners. It's the nauseating Lionel Messi loving. Tomorrow's game's going to be interesting. I mean, I'll be missing it. I'll be at the Den, but Morocco versus Portugal could be quite an interesting game, because obviously we've also seen the equally nauseating end of Cristiano Ronaldo's story, haven't we? It wasn't picked and they won 6-1, I believe, the other night. So that's an interesting story. And Morocco's an underdog story. So two storylines there, and then obviously England-France in the evening.
Shown himself up, hasn't he, for being the petulant star on the decline that he actually is.
Yeah, it's like
he wants to hang on to some kind of past glory, and I've not forgiven him for ripping Robbie Ryan a new one in an FA Cup final.
He does have a bit of what was that film with Bette Davis? Baby Jane. Was it? He's got a kind of whatever happened to Baby Jane quality to him, Cristiano, these days. But England France in the evening. I mean, that's the big game. That's the hook for the weekend, really, Neil, isn't it? I think we're in with a shout. If we can keep Mbappe quiet, which is the biggest if I think I've probably ever said in my life, but I think we've got a team, if it's allowed to, that can really play well going forwards, and we're in with a shout. Certainly the best chance I've seen for a long time, England-wise,
Yeah, thankfully Southgate's forgotten his Gary Rowett routine, hasn't he? Safety first, and he is, but he has allowed them to play, because when we played the USA, that was absolutely diabolical, wasn't it?
The handbrake was on, and we had wedges under the front wheels as well, just to prevent us moving, even if we wanted to. So,
Phil Foden, good enough for Pep Guardiola, but not, but seemingly not Southgate at that
ex-Crystal Palace non-entity Gareth Southgate. I mean, yeah. It's a huge game, and if we can get past France, big if, then anything's possible. Semi-finals onwards, it's the world is your oyster, as I feel like Del Boy Rodney saying that.
Achtung, Millwall.
Personally, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great. I haven't been to the Den for various reasons with the break in World Cup, and also I was away for the previous home game that we had. So I haven't been to the Den for a couple of months now. I think the last time I went was the Jed Wallace game, the West Brom, which is back in October. So I'm looking forward to getting down there tomorrow. And it's all part of the day, the cold, the edge in the air, the floodlights are on. I don't understand people that don't want to go to football matches, because you can't beat it in my opinion. As drama and as an experience, and there's a day out. So anyway, there we are. Anyway, welcome back after the break. After that Moanfest. This is going to be a rambling edition, Neil, isn't it? This one. A couple of bits caught my eye from the Millwall News at Den and the South London, the London News Online. We've signed and agreed a deal, apparently, for an Irish prospect, young kid, African boy from Ireland, Adomo Imaku. We've coming from Shamrock Rovers, and apparently we've beaten to the punch Wolves and Southampton to sign this highly rated youngster. I don't know anything about him, so I can't comment too much on Adomo. But what I did want to say was, if this story comes to pass, and it's reported like the deal is done, this sounds like another coup for the Millwall recruitment team, Neil, because this boy wasn't one that I'd heard of. He's clearly highly rated. If we have beaten to the signature the likes of Wolves and Southampton, and he's played in Italy, this kid for Lecce, we've done well. You know, that's the kind of deal we want to see, isn't it? If this comes to pass.
Yeah. I think he was a player we tried to sign in August, and they wouldn't let him go. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract. He's very, very, very highly rated. Apparently, has scored in the Champions League or the Europa League, maybe even
Republic
both.
of Ireland. Yeah, under-19 Republic of Ireland player.
This will be a done deal because I saw it on Richard Cowley's Twitter feed, and that was undoubtedly briefed by the club.
Yeah.
So the club have obviously tipped him the wink and said you can put this out. A lot of top European clubs were after him, and this is the scenario that we've been talking about, Nick, isn't it? For a long time, that we need to get these players in, like Zion Fleming, and then we add value to them. And this is another young player that we can bring in. Hopefully, we can add some value to him. And it's buy, sell, repeat, isn't it? That kind of thing.
Absolutely. I'm just reading from Richard's piece here, talking about the boy Imaku. He can play in a number of offensive roles and has been called up to the Republic of Ireland under 19 setup. Millwall view Imaku as a player of a big potential, but also one for the future. So this is precisely the kind of thing that we've for years we've been hoping that we can start to find these lesser known players that we can polish and sell on. So I just wanted to mention that, not because I'm only going by the write up, listeners, and the Richard's write up here, and I don't know anything more about the boy, but well done to Millwall for pulling this off. I think it's always easy to slag the club, but this is what we should be doing, and we've done it. So hats off to Alex Aldridge and Steve Kavanagh and whoever else involved in the club. Would have thought those would be the main players in the deal.
Yeah, no, we have said that Alex has upped his game since he's come back from Stoke, and he's maybe brought Stoke's modelling back, has improved upon it with his own ideas, and we're starting to reap the rewards. And
we are.
Yeah, we're very quick to run the club down as a fan base. I've never known a fan base like it.
No, some people seem to take pleasure in knocking us. I don't know. I mean, we don't always help ourselves, but show me a club that isn't efficiently run. I bet if you and I were to talk to anyone from a different club, they'd have their own stories of slapdash incompetence and whatever. But that's life. But I think where we do well, we should be the first to acknowledge it. And I think this deal sounds like that kind of what we've been wanting. So fingers crossed for the boy Marcus.
So you can't argue with it, and hopefully, my one fear is that we need somebody that can come in immediately and score goals. Yeah,
we do. Yeah,
not another one for the future. We need somebody else who can come in and score immediately.
Well, it's interesting. We were talking about the World Cup before we had the adverts, Neil, and I think you made the point about it's been a good World Cup, and it has been. But I think what you're seeing a lot is, including England, a lot of good sides separated really by some truly majestic individuals. It's there's a higher level, the highest level you're going to get. So I'm not comparing Millwall with the Brazilian side, but when you've got an Mbappe, for France, you need someone that's going to get the goal, that's going to take the game and take these moments, and that's what we've lacked a little bit. Now we're not going to achieve that level of player, but we do need someone just to walk into the side and start scoring goals. Now I imagine that's going to be loan. There's a story here about utilising the loan market in January, so maybe we'll see some action now. I don't know, but that's where we've got to improve if we're going to make it this season.
A couple of weeks ago we were talking about Everton Ferguson at Brighton, who again has been linked with us, but it depends. He's 18. He might be a fantastic player, but he's another one for the future, really, isn't he? We need guaranteed goals, not somebody who might come in and score a few. And that type of player, Brighton want him to get minutes under his belt at this stage. So he's probably not for us at the moment. It's okay if you got two up front, but we play one up, don't we, and one either side. So we need somebody that's going to score, not somebody who might score. Or
maybe some other point to prove. I don't know, but yeah, it's going to be important if we're going to make it this season. I think it is going to be the difference between us finishing top six or not. Let's see who we get.
Chris Wood type. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's a good example.
Yeah, we need. Or we're going to say a young Harry Kane, but then again, we didn't know that Harry Kane was going to be as good as he was when he came down. But Chris Wood is a good example of somebody when we need that calibre of player, as you've said, somebody with something to prove. And I also think we need to hang on to Jake Cooper, because apparently Glasgow Rangers are sniffing again. I saw
that. Someone mentioned that story. I hadn't seen that story, but I think I saw it on might be Millwall Online, or someone mentioned Jake going off to Rangers, and I hadn't seen that. But I mean, he will attract attention, Neil. I mean, he's
out of contract for the season, and for some reason hasn't agreed a new contract yet, which I think they've been talking. So is it going to be another situation that he's done his time? Yeah, he's done his time with us. I wouldn't want to see him go in January, because we are within touching distance. People are saying, "Oh, yeah, but we've got a ready-made replacement. We just get him back from St Johnstone." No, he's not ready-made replacement. Just because
that's Alex Mitchell.
Yeah. Just because he's playing well up there doesn't mean he can come back in and do it immediately. I think he'd be better off served staying there for the year.
I saw a story that said that from the club, Neil, that said that they see Mitchell seeing out the season in Scotland. So I don't think they see that as a ready-made replacement. If you want to put it in those terms,
very move in my view. He's doing great things up there. Let him get the confidence of a season up there, not come back and sit on the bench for half a season down here when he can be playing against Rangers and Celtic and teams like that. It'll do him the world of good.
We do feel like we're just one player, one goal scorer. Let's get it out there. I mean, even with the makeshift nature of the side, I think if we have a goal scorer, then that's going to be the difference between success and failure. We'll see what January brings.
Two players, I think. I don't think we're too far off it. I think we need. Yeah, we also need a wide player. I think we need somebody wide on the left, isn't it?
Left side. We've always struggled on the left now, haven't we?
So if we can get a Chris Wood type of player with something to prove and a left-sided player, I think we're set. We don't need to bring in 5 or 6 players unless we have an extraordinary run of injuries in January that actually necessitate that scenario. But we're not far off, and it's 2 players, and I would hope that if we can get that striker, and then we've got this young kid coming in, we can ease him into it rather than there you son, you're you've now got to go out and get us the goals. I don't think it will do him any favours.
Achtung, Millwall.
Just to move us along, there's an interesting FA Youth Cup fixtures being played Saturday the 17th, so Saturday week. It's a 7:00 Saturday night kickoff, which is unusual. It's Mill Youth versus Arsenal Youth. They're being played at the game's being played at the Boreham Wood Stadium, and it's free to get in. That's an interesting way to do it, isn't it? Have a free entry for a youth game, being played at a decent non-league setup there at Boreham Wood. It'd be nice to see if you go up there for that one. I might even see if I can get over there myself Saturday night. But the free entry is a good way to do it. There should be more of this kind of thing in football, in my opinion.
I think Arsenal traditionally did open the gates for their reserve games. I can remember the old football combination games over at Highbury and things like that, and they were always free. I think they pay. Don't Arsenal women play there? And
I think the women play at Boreham Wood. Yeah.
I think under 23s might play there as well. So they obviously give them a fee for the year. I think they pay for the pitch to be done and have ground improvements, and then Boreham Wood make off your catering and your bars, don't they? And they've already been paid.
They do.
It's a very strange kickoff time, isn't it?
7:00 on Saturday evening. Yeah.
Some people saying, "Oh yeah, no, they don't want us to go," but
I'd have thought
that mentality. It's the Hoff mentality. I shouldn't ever have opened the thread, really. Yeah, it's just one of those that you read it and you think, "Oh, there always has to be some subliminal message behind a 7:00 kickoff." It's a very interesting one, I must admit. It did raise an eyebrow with me. I thought 7:00 on a Saturday night.
Yeah, I don't know. I might have. I'll see. I say these things, listeners. I might go to it, and I probably won't go to it. But anyway, there we are. 7:00, Saturday the 17th. Boreham Wood. The details on the club website. Just to close us out, if we can, Neil. There's an interesting piece that Aaron did actually from the Achtung. Did a little piece in the week on behalf of ITV Football, looking at the various community events that the club are involved in, particularly the Lions Food Hub that we are heavily involved with ourselves. Really nice little piece. It's great publicity for Millwall. I don't know if you got a chance to see it. It's been doing the rounds on Twitter. Like talking about the drop-in centre the club run every Wednesday morning at the Exec Lounge, and the work of Kelly and the Food Hub. Really, really good publicity. And I did hear, I don't know if Kelly will thank me for saying this, but on the strength of the piece that she did to camera with ITV and Aaron the other night, that there was a donation of 45 turkeys been made by somebody. I don't know if it's a local businessman or a viewer of the piece donated 45 turkeys for families locally to enjoy their Christmas. And I just think that's fantastic. The little section that it did, about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, it's on Twitter, really gave some good publicity for Millwall and the work that we do. So hats off to all involved on that.
Matt, I want to pay tribute to not only to Kelly and everybody at Millwall, but I think I was listening to The Price of Football the other day.
Yeah.
And a lot of clubs that during this time, these horrible times that we're living in, I know it's horrible I hate using the cost of living crisis, because
it's the cliche, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, everything's a crisis or an emergency now. But you have got clubs opening their doors, and they're allowing people to go into sitting lounges and watch TV to keep warm.
Yeah.
To have a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, some soup, something to eat, and they're laying this on. And obviously Millwall, we've got the lights on, we've got the heating on for the staff that work there. So other clubs have as well. I think it's just a fantastic way of a football club being able to help the community. I think that we lose a lot of sight in modern football. We were talking about modern football earlier on.
We were, yeah.
That it is much more business driven now. It's moved kind of away from being the hub of the community. The football club was always everything in the community, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they've kind of got away. And the work that Kelly does, 45 turkeys means there are 45 families that aren't going to go hungry at Christmas.
Well, they're going to have a Christmas because if you and me speak to each other, what's Christmas? Well, you have a turkey at Christmas, and if you can't afford that, many can't. It makes it into Christmas. It's a big deal. I think it's fantastic.
You and I can have plenty to eat at Christmas, but there are people that can't afford it. Yeah, and it's shameful.
Absolutely.
It's shameful. I'm not a lefty in any way, shape, or form. But I think it's a stain on this country that we have to have food banks, and the work that Kelly and that do. That's why I do this. Yeah, it's a Friday morning. I'm supposed to be working, but no. Well, we'll do a podcast that people listen to. We get revenue that we can then pass that revenue on, can't we? And it does a bit of good.
We do. Also, we just want to touch. I mentioned the ITV piece. It's on Twitter. You can find it dead easy, listeners. Well worth a watch. It's only about a minute, 2 minutes of your time. But I just want to say well done to as well as everybody else, but also Billy Mitchell. He does a lot of work, and you can tell, Neil, when a player's doing his community work grudgingly, or when he's really sitting there and putting himself into it, and Billy's putting himself into it. There's a couple of shots of him talking to the people in the coffee club, and he's talking to them. He's there. He's not just there because he's contractually required to do something. There's a big difference, and we all know Billy Mitchell's a Millwall fan, but he's genuinely in that room because he wants to be there and he's enjoying himself. And I think that's a tribute to the boy, because you can soon tell when somebody's just there because they're going through the motions, and Billy's not going through the motions. So I just want to say well done to Bill there on that front. It's a great publicity for the club, and as ever, we've been brought up with knowing that Millwall is a name that means certain things to certain people out there, but we'll never change that. But it just is great to see the other side of the coin portrayed on mainstream media. So well done to IT and Aaron for doing that piece.
I'm glad you brought that up about Billy, because he is an impressive young man.
He is.
And I saw that, and you could see that he wanted to be there, that he was giving it everything, and he's one of our own. Yeah, he's a homegrown player. He's a Millwall fan. The family are Millwall fans, and you can see, as you said, it means something to him. And he's doing fantastic things on the pitch, and he's also doing fantastic things off the pitch. And those are the things that make club legends, aren't they? I know we have this whole debate about what's a club legend, but Billy Mitchell's got the makings of being one. And just one for what he does on the pitch, but everything that that Millwall encapsulates. And he's a credit to himself, he's a credit to his family, and he's an absolute credit to this club.
100%. Yeah. No, it's well done, Bill. As I say, it's on Twitter. I've retweeted it already, but it's not difficult to find it, listeners, if you haven't seen it. Just to close us out, if I may, Neil, I just want to mention and say thank you, a couple of thank yous, really. I just want to say thank you to everyone that's bought this pundit game, the trivia game, because that's generated some revenue for us this week, which I was able to donate to Kelly, to the Food Hub. 7 sales have taken place. That's given us 70 quid. We've passed that over this week. Makes a total of 260 so far for the season that we've been able to generate on the podcast. The game is a good game. It's like a Trivial Pursuit game. Some of the questions are they're arranged. Some of them are quite obscure, so you will need to be a football head out there to know your stuff. But if you do buy one, it generates a revenue for the Food Hub, and That's fantastic. So we're able to put 70 quid into the food hub this week as a result, direct result of those that have bought their Christmas presents. Pundit Game. So visit the Pundit punditgame.co.uk, and I'll retweet that on our Twitter feed. And finally, if I may, I'm just working. I've placed the order, Neil, for our 2023 AchtungMillwall calendar, which is has been a series of team photos across the ages that Chris Bethel is an absolute mine of information and photographs, and he sent me a range of 13 team photographs since 1894-95. So it's going to be a range of classic Millwall teams. I've tried to choose seasons that aren't obviously big seasons, so they're offbeat seasons, and they've done a little piece against each one just to explain what happened in a particular year. So that's going to be available. I'm hoping to take delivery of the calendars either today or Monday, and then we'll stick it online for sale. And that's going to also generate revenues for the food hub. And I'm hoping, my target listeners, I'm going to need you out there to help me. I'm hoping that we can sell enough to generate £1,000 contribution to the food hub. That's my target, and I'm hoping I'll achieve it, but we'll see. I'll publish that online when it comes. So I just wanted to mention the 2023 calendar, Neil, which has become a bit of a regular thing that we do now.
Yeah, it's become a Millwall tradition, hasn't it? The Achtung Millwall. Yeah, well, I know you used to get the ones from the club shop, which coincidentally I hear has actually reopened. There's not a lot in. Yeah, there's not a lot in there apparently, but
I've not been over.
Yeah, but it has actually reopened, and the added bonus of getting the Achtung Millwall calendar, not only does it help people in our local community, but you're not going to have a player on your calendar next November that we sold 3 weeks ago.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of it from that angle. That's a very good point.
Your calendar will remain relevant all year. You're not going to have a player in next November or next December who hasn't been around for 8 and 9 months because we decided to off.
That's an excellent point, and I hadn't thought of that at all. So that's a brilliant point. The seasons that we've got team photographs, all from Chris Bethel's photographic collection, which is vast, Neil. I mean, Chris is a mine of information and trivia and stuff of this kind. I think we've got 1894-95. We've got 1914-15. We've got one from the 20s, 26-27, I think it is. And early 30s, 1933-34, 1946-47, one from the 1960-61, which was my year of birth, and then one from the late 60s, 69-70, 77-78, and some recent ones as well. So we've crammed them in there. And against each one, Neil, I've done a little potted resume of what happened that season, and the likes of Neil Fissler and all the other experts out there will read those little pieces and probably pull them to pieces and correct me where I've made any crossed any boundaries or any lines. So that's your challenge, Fizz.
Would I do something like that?
Yes, you would.
I know, I'll tell you.
And also, I did this at pace a little bit, listeners, because I didn't start till late for various reasons. I've written them.
Guaranteed to be.
As I'm writing this stuff, I'm thinking that Fizz is going to pull some of this apart. Anyway, it should be your bit of fun for the season, but it's all for a good cause. Target is to generate £1,000 for the food hub, and that's really what it's all about, listeners. So we'll have those on sale, I hope, next week. So watch this space.
We're going to be bombarding you, so be prepared. And it would be good if you could raise £1,000 for Kelly.
That's the target. Yeah. For January, because Christmas is upon us, and as we all know, Neil, you and I know, January is a long month, and that's, I think, when Kelly will need the help and assistance, because the glamour is Christmas, but January is always a tough month. So that's what we're going to try and aim at anyway. More news on that next week, I hope. Neil, I think we've reached the end of my very flimsy agenda, mate. I feel like we've I feel like we've taken a flimsy running order there and stretched it out, mate. So well done. Thank you for coming on the show today.
Well, we have ranted and raved our way through about 20 minutes earlier on.
If you're still here listening to it, listeners, well done.
But if you are woke and you are a modern football fan, nothing personal. I just don't like you.
Ho, 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 spirit of Christmas. There we are. Huge thank you, Neil Fissler. Thank you to you too, dear listeners. And thank you to everyone that's contributed to the game. If you need a Christmas present, it's a good game to get. Anyway, there we are. Until the next show, which will be next week, from Neil and I, it's Arrivederci Millwall, and bye for now.
Achtung, Millwall.
Achtung, Achtung, Christmas is a-coming, dear listeners. And, to quote Richard Chaplow, 26 appearances, 9 subs, 1 goal, as he once said, you cannot beat a good board game. And we've got a good board game for you here. Achtung has teamed up with a tremendous football trivial pursuit style game called Pundit. You can follow Pundit at Pundit Games on Twitter. And it's a really nice little game, actually. It's a board game. It consists of football trivia questions, easy and hard. Some of the hard ones are very, very hard. And you move along a football pitch to score goals against your opponent. It will suit the football head in your life, dear listeners. Great way to pass a Christmas afternoon. You can get a 10% discount if you visit punditgames.co.uk. That's PUNDITGAMES, punditgames.co.uk. Get a 10% discount at checkout with the code LIONS in capital letters. Lions, capital letters. And every sale will benefit the Lions Food Hub. What a better way to pass your Christmas than to enjoy a good football trivia game and to know you're doing good at the same time. So get on it. punditgames.co.uk.